Welcome to my channel. I am the out-of-body atheist and I'm doing a long video today. I'm so excited. I've been doing a bunch of shorts and it's really hard to get into any topics. This video is going to be about the shorts I've been making and more specifically about the responses I've been getting to my shorts. If you're somebody who agreed with me in the comments, you're probably not going to come up in this video. Thank you for agreeing with me. That's not interesting to other people. It was very interesting to me. I loved it. I broke this down by the short. So if you want to go see the short and see what they're responding to, you can do that. I think that kind of divides things up by topic as well. I do want to be clear that I am not singling out Christians. I'm not saying let's pick on the Christians. It's just primarily Christians that responded in the comments. And also I understand that there are a lot of really awesome, thoughtful, intelligent Christians out there in the world who did not respond in the comments, and these comments are not representative of you. So you don't need to tell me about that in the comments. We know you're there. Thank you for being there. Hashtag not all Christians. All right, so this first comment is on the video, How Does Atheism Explain the Origin of Life? And that short video, I just say it doesn't, because it doesn't. And that's really as long as that video needed to be. So I got the response from @quer5760. Jesus said, "Whoever comes to know the world has found only a corpse. Who knows the world is a corpse is superior to that world." Then I got a YouTube link that I did not follow. Screw that. Body parts of the bloated human corpse we call Earth. For fallen angels and a dragon r/dragon giants. Gross. My partner and I got together earlier this year and decided that 2025, the word of the year is gross. And I feel like this is a really gross way to think about the world that we live in, to think of it as a rotting, bloated corpse sort of thing. If you really believe that this world was created for us by a God, aren't you kind of giving that God a big middle finger when you say stuff like that about their creation? But that's not my objection to it. My objection to it is just that we're taking possibly this one life we have and saying, everything about this sucks. I'm gonna live for after I die. Gross. Really gross. Also, maybe we should not be putting doomsday cultists in charge of planning for the future. It bothers me that so much of the United States government is comprised of people who believe the world could end at any minute. I think that's not best for long-term planning. Let's get some more secularists up in there, huh? So the next video we're going to talk about comments from is, do atheists hate God? The answer, of course, is no. We don't hate something we don't believe in. That would be silly. So @COFish2023 said, the Bible has those things in it, but it doesn't condone/support them. So I said in that short that if Old Testament God existed, I would not like them because they promote genocide and people unaliving other people for worship reasons and people doing non-consensual things with other people and slavery. And all of those are not nasty, nasty things. And so what CO Fish is saying is that it does not condone those things. Okay, does it condemn them? If the Bible is our ultimate source of morality, I would expect some condemnation of genocide. I would expect some condemnation of slavery. I would expect some condemnation of unconsensual stuff with women, aside from forcing their person who did that to them to marry them. That's gross. So yeah, that is in the Bible. I honestly don't care what's in the Bible because nobody has given me any evidence that the Bible is more important than any other book. Even if it were important, it does condone those things. Papa Smurf 6423 says, just say that you hate objective morality. You are petrified of the idea that one day you will be held accountable for all the things you've done and the things that you have failed to do. If you allowed yourself to believe that eternal damnation might await you, then you would have to actually change your hedonistic ways. Oh my gosh, I'm such a heathen. Well, this is some pretty hedonistic fabric that my jacket is made of. It's very nice. I love it. But mostly, I am not terribly hedonistic in the pop cultural sense of the word. I do love enjoying things. I think most people do. I want to see beautiful things. I want to taste flavorful things. I want to smell good smelling things. And hedonism is all about enjoying the world with your senses. So, from that perspective, Papa Smurf is right. I am a hedonist. But I cannot help but notice that I am being threatened. And threatening people with imaginary punishments is gross. Also, before your threat can work, you kind of have to provide me with some evidence that it is real. Threatening me with imaginary shit just makes you look sad. At Pro SG3SB said, please go meet Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk or another sheikh. They would teach you about Islam. So hey, representing Islam over there, thank you at Pro SG3SB. So before I would want to learn more about Islam, I think it would be important for me to have some evidence that the Islamic God exists and that the Quran was in fact inspired by that God. And I don't think there is sufficient evidence to get me there yet. So I'm not going to follow up on your advice, but thanks for the recommendation. Have a great day. Now we're going to go to the comments on our atheists anti-religious. I just got the one. At Kraken Assassin 7805 says, just want to let you know that Jesus loves you and his arms are open to you. God bless you. Heart shape. Cool, I guess. Just as threatening me with imaginary punishments probably doesn't have the impact you think it might have, so too does threatening me with imaginary cuddles not have the effect you think it will have. Also, while Jesus is pretty hot in a lot of the paintings I've seen, I just don't have that feeling towards my fellow long-haired dudes. I don't need their snuggles. I'll take a high five or a thumbs up, but no thanks. So in response to atheism isn't a religion, first comment is at Cut by the Book 1611. Atheism is taught at temples called schools by teachers that play the role of a priest, and the student plays the initiate. As the initiate, quote, learns, end quote, this information, they ascend up through the degrees/grades of the rites. It even has dogmas and those that it declares as heretics. Cool story, bro. That is, of course, completely unanchored in any sort of reality. It is a common theme because we keep asking for evidence of religion. A lot of people are slapping back a little bit by trying to claim that things that aren't religions are religions to try to shift the burden of proof. That was a very clumsy and kind of sad way to do it. Cut by the book. Do better. Sean Small, 9910, says, it's a belief. You just put your faith in all sorts of different things, regardless of semantics. You behave much like religious believers because the fault primarily comes from our humanity and the limitations inherent within. Atheism isn't a belief. It isn't a religion. Atheism is the absence of a belief and the lack of a religion. Atheism is a religion in the same way that bald is a hairstyle, to quote whoever said that. It's not my idea. That's old stuff. And that's just silly. Religions at their very base have a set of things that you believe in. All an atheist thinks is there's no reason for me to believe in a God. Different atheists have different ways we approach that. Some atheists will say, I believe there is no God. I'm not one of those. I just won't believe anything that I don't have evidence for, and ain't no evidence for a God. So no thank you. So I did a short called Faith Doesn't Make You a Better Person. First one I'm going to read is at Trump for King. This person, there's a whole conversation basically that we had in the comments. I'm just reading the first comment of everything because I don't want this video to be that long and that boring. So if you want to see my replies and their replies, my replies and their replies, and all that stuff, you're going to have to, go see the video. What's it mean to be a better or more moral person? How can one person behave better than another? What's the standard? Well, I don't believe there is any one standard because I don't believe there is an objective morality. And a lot of people who do believe there is an objective morality do a really shitty job describing what that even means. If you believe that what you believe is objective because it comes from some eternal being somewhere, then all you're doing is pushing it back one level. Instead of being your opinion, it's that being's opinion, and it's still subjective. Like when you say that genocide is wrong, but when that being says go do a genocide, it's not wrong, that's subjective morality. My personal standard for morality is I want to create a society in which every individual has the most possible freedom to be who they are, and there is the least possible encroachment on that freedom. But I also recognize that we are a social species, that we live in societies, and that there are some freedoms we have to be willing to give up so that other people can have more important freedoms. So, for example, I don't think Elon Musk should have $200 billion. I don't think anyone needs more than $500 million tops. I think that billionaires represent a flaw in our economic system, and it is immoral to be and remain a billionaire. If you want to be a good person and you have more wealth than you can possibly use in your whole lifetime, and other people are suffering, then if you're not sharing, you're immoral. And that's gonna piss a lot of people off, primarily libertarians. Good. Fuck you, libertarians. Stephen Asbill, 5565. How about faith in people as a whole? People are not better or worse. Love the sinner, hate the sin. While it is good to have faith, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So the only thing I really disagree with here is that, the idea of sin, I think the idea of sin is stupid because I've only seen sin defined in terms of like divine command theory, where you're sinning if you're doing things that God told you not to do, or you're sinning because God would not approve of what you do. Importantly, sin is not couched in human motives and human experience. And I think if it's not human and I'm human, it's not of any use to me. So I don't love any sinners because I don't believe in any sinners. I don't hate any sins because I don't believe in sins. I think there are absolutely dickish things to do, and I think there are absolutely atrocious things to do, and I think that the people who do these things should probably be removed from society if they're creating situations in which freedoms are removed from other people. But I don't think those people have sinned because I don't believe there is anyone to sin against. Scarvy McCargo said, Christianity has profoundly shaped the world, contributing to concepts of human dignity, social justice, and the development of various institutions, including hospitals, education, and art, while also influencing movements for abolition and democracy. Well, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? It's a mixed bag. The problem is that we're giving Christianity credit for a bunch of shit that happened while Christianity was there, but we have no way to know whether it would have happened without Christianity there. We don't even know if maybe it could have been better without Christianity there. I see credit being given where it's not necessarily due. Christians were there, and I believe Christians, as part of society, absolutely contributed to all of the amazing things that we enjoy right now. Thank you, Christians, who helped contribute to that. I don't think it had anything to do with Christianity. I think it was just Christians being humans with other humans doing good shit. And I think we're ignoring all of the things that Christians being humans with other humans doing bad shit also got up to. And I think if we take both of those things together, we'll find that on balance, the contribution from Christianity is probably a wash. Why this atheist rejects religion, which is really all of about 30 or 40 seconds of, hey, ain't no evidence for religion, so I reject it. So Matthew Sutherland, 3440, said, Part of the analysis of evidence has to be done with an open heart and mind. No amount of truth will grab a hold of your heart if you aren't able to conceptualize its possibility. This can be seriously hard and requires honest humility. With that said, the truth will set you free. May God bless you and enter your life. Jesus loves you. So I understand that was probably meant to be encouraging, but coming from a perspective of not believing in a God, the God stuff there is meaningless and a little stupid. No amount of truth will grab a hold of your heart if you aren't able to conceptualize its possibility. Cool. Well, that rules out your ineffable God. If your God is true and ineffable, it can't grab a hold of your heart because you can't conceptualize that, right? Anyway, none of that matters because there isn't any evidence. Peter G711, nothing that anyone will evidence you with will ever change what you think, so you will see for yourself. Good luck. So another veiled threat. Thanks, Peter. Now, Peter in the comments says lots of gross stuff. Peter, I think, is probably a really gross guy. Be better, Peter. Yeah, he's basically saying, I've hardened my heart and I just don't want to believe, and that's why I don't believe. Whatever you need to tell yourself, Peter. Where's the evidence? All right, at Tyson2777 said, I was at death's door, stomach cancer, prayed, and next day I was fine. Cool, Tyson. Where's the evidence? That's a pretty cool miracle. That seems like the kind of thing that if it really happened and if a doctor saw that it happened, it would be in a paper somewhere. You know, spontaneous remission is a big deal because it might hold some clues as to how we could treat cancer in the future. So we'd be following up on that if it really happened. There are all these stories of miraculous healings, and one thing they seem to have in common is a complete lack of a paper trail. So I feel like I'm reasonably skeptical. Peter, from the previous comment, did have a response to this I'm going to share. You know that if these kind of stories and cures gets the spotlight, then the doctors will have less income. Healthcare is all about the money. You know this. Well, there are a lot of doctors who do healthcare because they care about people and they want to help them. If there were a vast medical conspiracy, kind of like on the order of, say, there was this organization that had a bunch of pedophiles that were, bothering kids, and instead of bringing those pedophiles to justice, they just kind of moved them around to new communities so that they could prey on more kids. That would be a conspiracy. And oh, wait, something like that came to light. Hi, Catholic Church. But anyway, where is the evidence of this conspiracy? I believe that there are conspiracies in the world. Like right now, there is a conspiracy by Republicans to overthrow democracy in the United States. And as evidence of that, we have a bunch of presidential orders that are basically saying, I get to do this thing that the Constitution says I don't get to do. And Republicans in Congress not pushing back on that and just letting him do that. And the Supreme Court justices that he appointed saying it's cool. That would be a conspiracy to destroy democracy by just kind of taking our Constitution and wiping your ass with it. And we have lots of evidence of that conspiracy. So I know conspiracies are real, but I've never seen any evidence of hiding the cure for cancer just to continue making money treating people with cancer. And also, Peter, don't you think that's gross? You're gross, Peter. Be less gross. And the next one's from Peter as well. Thanks for all the engagement, Peter. You are helping me with the algorithm. Troy Black is my evidence. He hears God speak and prophecy and makes follow-up videos about prophecies that came true. There is evidence, should you choose to view it. So I looked up Troy Black because what the hell, right? His videos are not even good enough for me to want to do a response video to them. He's just like, so God told me this, and God told me this, and here's another thing God told me. I do know with some confidence that Troy's God is a dick, and I think Troy is taking advantage of his audience on YouTube to make money. And I do kind of wish that I had the kind of moral system that would allow me to do that sort of unethical thing, because then I could quit my day job and just do this for a living. But unfortunately, I don't like lying to people for money. So screw you, Troy Black. Your videos suck, and you probably suck too. At Slidden1, SLIDN1, how much more evidence do you need? You don't see it because you just aren't looking, laughing, crying face. Any would be a good start. Let's start with any evidence and go from there. That would be more evidence than I've seen. Here is another one from Trump for King. What's your evidence for non-existence of God? That's shifting the burden of proof. I need evidence for God. In sciencey stuff, we have a thing called a null hypothesis, and the null hypothesis is always favored. So for example, we'll say B is caused by A. That's my hypothesis, and I'm going to do an experiment with controls to show that B is caused by A. The null hypothesis is that, of course, B is not caused by A. B is caused by something else. In the experiment, we don't disprove the null hypothesis. We always favor the null hypothesis. The experiment is only valid and supporting our hypothesis if we can reject the null hypothesis, if the hypothesis is more likely than the null hypothesis. Atheism is the null hypothesis to the claim that there is a God. And until you come up with, well, any evidence, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. At Cheyenne Ozer said, look at the world around you is all the evidence you how you can say there's nothing. Look at the skies, apostrophe S, the oceans, mankind, Allah is great. Thanks, Cheyenne Ozer. Nice to see another Muslim in here, so it's not just me picking on Christians. I choose to believe that English is not your first language, and I'll forgive you there, but all this is the look at the trees argument. The world is evidence for the world. If I had two worlds, and one of them was created by a god and the other one was not, and I could compare and contrast the differences, then maybe one of the worlds could be evidence for creation. But when you're in a situation where you're like, no, man, everything was created, well, I can't check up on that really, can I? It's useless. Where does atheist morality come from? Was the video, and in that video I just say morality arises from societies, and it's similar from society to society because humans all have similar needs, and none of us really are that into dying. At Gordon Pike 4208 said, oh, and I said this isn't going to make sense until I say what I ended with. I said that if you say that I am not a moral person because I'm an atheist, you're probably a dick. Perfect ending. Fine show of morality where if I don't agree with you, I'm a, well, cool, can't say dick. The morality that he got from his parents in school et al., where does he think it came from? The values of our culture are Christian. Sorry. Does he believe in sati, where the wife should follow the husband into the afterlife? Or harikari, to save his family from shame? Those are some very specific examples. But you know what? The Egyptians did not like murder. They were not keen on it. And I know it's hard to tell that because their whole religious tradition is based on an afterlife, and religious traditions that minimize the importance of this life and maximize the importance of the next life are, I would agree, really gross and creepy and probably shouldn't be taken seriously. As for Japanese culture, they did believe that, it's better to take your own life than to shame your family. And I think that would fall under honor thy father and thy mother, maybe, which is one of the 10 commandments. Well, one of the 3 versions of the 10 commandments. Pick your favorite. But it really doesn't matter because half of the 10 commandments are unconstitutional. It's not till we get to the last half that we start getting to stuff, and then it's still not in there. Honor thy father and thy mother? Nah, there aren't any laws about that. In fact, I would say that we shouldn't base our laws on morality generally. We shouldn't try to enforce our morality through law because we are going to have minor differences in morality. And in as much as my moral differences don't hurt anybody directly, I should be able to have them. So, for example, if you believe that self-pleasure is immoral and people who pleasure themselves are evil and corrupt, and I believe that self-pleasure is just fine in moderation as long as it doesn't become a pathological need, well, there's a difference in morality that we have, and I don't think either one of us should be passing laws based on that. I don't get to pass a everybody touch yourself 2 times a day law, and you don't get to pass a everybody never touch yourself law. That would be shitty of either one of us. At Doc Savage 7969, Satan, duh. Simple answer. What it comes down to is that moral relativism, ellipses, and over time, parentheses, as has been seen in every empire or society, end parenthesis, means that we get to decide what is good, not an objective standard, and eventually everything is permitted in about 5 generations. Romans fell apart, for example. A better argument is that every religion has about the same top morality lists independently, so if your morals are different, it's kind of scary. So I will agree that every group of humans has some very similar moral principles that we tend to follow. We don't like when people take our stuff. We don't like when people take our life. We don't like when people take our agency from us. And you'll find that moral codes worldwide have those in common. Where we do come up with some disagreement is, I love the example of the fall of the Roman Empire, especially since the Roman Empire fell after it adopted Christianity as a state religion. Maybe not the best example. The last short I'm going to be reading comments from is Mormons who trust MAGA are fools. So I live in Utah, and I made a short video about how MAGA is primarily an evangelical-inspired movement, and a lot of MAGA are evangelicals, and a lot of MAGA in government are evangelicals, and evangelicals do not believe that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are even Christian. And it is not a good idea to trust them with your future if they think you're no better than any other non-Christian. That's the whole point of that video. And I do want to start with an apology for not using Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the video title. It's just too damn long, and most people know what a Mormon is as opposed to the other thing. But at SDB0414 says, I don't know why YouTube showed me your video, but I watched a few of your shorts. I am not trying to be insulting at all, but you are making assertions about Christians and Christianity that are so off the mark that I have to assume you either know very little about Christianity or are intentionally lying. I was an atheist from my preteen years into my early adulthood, but I have given my life to Jesus Christ now. Not once have I ever met a Christian of any denomination that hates Mormons. Christ taught us to hate sin, but not the individual, as it would be hypocritical to proclaim faith in Jesus Christ, yet harbor hate for any image bearer of the one true triune God. There's a lot there. Now, I do want to say, so my immediate impulse is to say that most of the time when someone says I was an atheist and then became a Christian, I do have doubts. And I want to say that's not okay. We should believe people when they tell us what they believe. And so I'd like to apologize if I make that mistake in the future. It's not okay for me to do it. It's not okay for you to do it. Believe people when they say what they believe. Maybe this person was an atheist and they became a Christian. There are lots of ways to be an atheist. Some of those ways to be an atheist are not intellectually robust, and some are more intellectually robust. And so, I can see that. What I hate about this comment more than anything else is that they haven't told me what I got wrong. People, we cannot improve when we aren't aware of our error. Tell me, if I get a thing wrong, what specific thing did I get wrong? I mean, this is quite the paragraph. You could have cut out the last half that is just you bearing your testimony and told me what I got wrong instead, and even used fewer words, and it would have been more useful to me. Brian Webb 2709 says, MAGA, Trump, Trump, Trump. Cool, Brian. At Michael Burgess 6556 says, LDS is not a Christian church because your Christology is totally heretical, as is all your theology if you have one. So I'm guessing that Michael Burgess here is assuming that I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because I am warning members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that maybe it's not a great idea to hitch your wagon to the MAGA movement, because they're really Christian nationalist and they don't think you're Christians. I'm not a Mormon. And I will accept that my Christology, whatever the hell that is totally heretical, because I demand evidence, and that is apparently not okay. So that is my comments so far. Hopefully some of those comments were entertaining for you. If not, I hope some of my replies were entertaining for you. Let me know in the comments what I got wrong, if you think I got something wrong, or what I got right, if you think I got things right. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel, because it's just a little baby channel. I've got like 7 subscribers right now. One of them's my dad. So I do feel very lucky that I have parents who love and support me no matter what I believe. I'm considering doing a video about how often that doesn't happen, and how tragic and vile it is that parents are walking away from their kids just for choosing not to believe as they do. I do enjoy arguing with people on the internet, so if you respond to this video, please just keep in mind that I reserve the right to respond in turn. You have a great day out there.